Every time you buy a designer handbag, you're not just purchasing leather and stitching, you're buying into a carefully constructed illusion that costs pennies to create, but sells for thousands. And the people at the top of this pyramid are laughing all the way to the bank while you're convinced you're part of an exclusive club that, in reality, has millions of members all wearing the same logo. Think about it. When was the last time you saw someone flex their luxury purchase and felt that weird mix of envy and inadequacy? That feeling isn't accidental, it's engineered. And today we're looking at how luxury brands operate exactly like pyramid schemes, exploiting human psychology, manufacturing artificial scarcity, and convincing you that a $1,000 t-shirt somehow makes you superior to someone wearing a $20 one. This isn't about hating nice things. It's about understanding how these billion-dollar corporations have weaponized status anxiety and turned consumption into a never-ending cycle where you're always one purchase away from feeling complete, but never quite getting there. We'll break down specific brands, reveal their actual production costs versus retail prices, examine their marketing strategies, and show you how they've convinced entire generations that debt and financial irresponsibility are acceptable prices to pay for fleeting social validation. Let's start with the foundation of how luxury brands operate. And trust me, once you see the pattern, you'll never look at a designer store the same way again. The markup on luxury goods is so astronomically high that it would be considered criminal in any other industry, yet we've normalized paying $3,000 for a handbag that costs less than $50 to manufacture, including materials and labor. Luxury brands operate on markups ranging from 800 to 2,000%, meaning that Chanel bag you're saving up for costs them roughly 3 to 5% of what you're paying, with the remaining 95% going toward marketing, celebrity partnerships, storefront aesthetics, and pure profit. When you break down the actual costs, the math becomes insulting. Leather sourcing typically runs between $10 and $30, even for quality materials. Hardware and zippers cost around $5. Labor in countries like China, Vietnam, or Bangladesh, where most luxury goods are actually manufactured, despite the Made in Italy tags costs between $15 and $40, and you're left with a product that cost maybe $60 being sold for $4,000. The pyramid scheme comparison becomes clear when you realize that luxury brands don't make money from creating exceptional products. They make money from recruiting you into their aspirational pyramid, where your purchase validates the purchases of everyone below you and inspires people beneath you to climb up. The brilliance and the evil of this system is that, unlike traditional pyramid schemes where money flows up through recruitment, luxury brands have positioned their products as the recruitment tool itself, where wearing their logo makes you a walking advertisement that recruits others into the same cycle of consumption. They've convinced consumers that paying more means getting more, when in reality you're paying for the privilege of advertising for them, and the quality difference between a $200 bag and a $2,000 bag is negligible at best, and sometimes the cheaper option is actually better constructed. This isn't speculation. Former luxury goods manufacturers have come forward explaining how the same factories produce bags for multiple brands at different price points, with the only difference being the logo stamped on the product. Yet we've been conditioned to believe that a particular label somehow imbues an object with mystical properties of quality and status. The whole system relies on keeping you ignorant of these realities, because the moment you understand that you're paying a 900% markup for bragging rights, the illusion shatters, and the emperor is revealed to have no clothes, just very expensive invisible ones that cost him nothing to make. Louis Vuitton has perfected the art of manufactured scarcity and artificial exclusivity, while simultaneously being one of the most mass-produced luxury brands in existence, churning out millions of identical products yearly while convincing each buyer they own something special and rare. The brand's monogram canvas products, their most popular line, cost them approximately $40 to $60 to produce, including materials and labor, yet retails for anywhere from $1,000 to $3,000 depending on the style, representing markups that would make even pharmaceutical companies blush. What makes Louis Vuitton particularly insidious is their strategic use of the monogram itself, which serves zero functional purpose and exists solely to broadcast to everyone around you that you spent money on their product, turning you into a mobile billboard they didn't have to pay to display their advertisement. The brand has created this perception of heritage and craftsmanship, constantly emphasizing their founding year of 1854 and their Parisian roots. But modern Louis Vuitton products are manufactured in factories across Spain, the United States, and yes, China, using modern mass production techniques that have nothing to do with artisanal craftsmanship. Their business model is literally pyramid-shaped. At the top are the truly limited haute couture pieces that almost nobody can access. In the middle are the still expensive but more attainable leather goods, and at the bottom are the canvas monogram pieces that are deliberately priced just high enough to feel luxurious, but low enough that middle-class consumers can save up for them, creating a broad base of customers who all think they're exclusive. The company destroys unsold inventory rather than discounting it. Not because of quality control, but because maintaining artificially high prices requires preventing any perception that their products might be worth less than retail, which is pyramid scheme behavior, where the perceived value must be protected at all costs, even if it means literal destruction of goods. Louis Vuitton spends approximately 35% of their revenue on marketing and advertising, which means when you buy a $2,000 bag, $700 of your purchase went toward convincing you to buy that bag in the first place, making you pay for your own manipulation. Gucci has transformed itself from a struggling legacy brand into a hypebeast phenomenon by cynically targeting younger consumers with logo-heavy designs that sacrifice subtle elegance for instantly recognizable branding that screams, "Look at me, I spent money." Under Alessandro's creative direction from 2015 to 2022, Gucci deliberately pivoted toward maximalist designs covered in double G logos, B emblems, and web stripes, creating products that function less as fashion and more as status signals, with the quiet luxury of their past replaced by loud luxury that serves the brand's interests over the consumers. The brand's iconic GG Marmont bag costs them approximately $70 to $90 to produce but retails for over $2,000. And what you're really paying for isn't quilted leather. It's the oversized double G logo that announces your purchase to everyone within visual range. Gucci has mastered the art of creating artificial hype through limited releases and collaborations that drive people to wait in lines and pay resale markups, behavior identical to pyramid scheme recruitment tactics where scarcity is manufactured to create urgency and fear of missing out drives people to make irrational financial decisions. The brand's pricing strategy is particularly revealing. They'll release a plain leather belt for $300, but add their logo buckle and suddenly it's $800, making it crystal clear that you're not paying for materials or craftsmanship, but purely for the branding and the social signaling that comes with it. What's especially manipulative is how Gucci has positioned itself as the entry point into luxury for young people and social media influencers, creating payment plans and pushing smaller accessories that are more affordable, knowing that once someone makes that first purchase, they're psychologically invested in the brand and more likely to climb up to more expensive pieces. The company has been caught multiple times manufacturing products in China while claiming Italian craftsmanship, revealing that even the heritage story they're selling is partially fabricated, yet consumers continue buying because they're not actually buying quality or origin, they're buying the social currency that comes with the name. Hermes represents the pinnacle of luxury pyramid schemes, creating such extreme artificial scarcity with their Birkin and Kelly bags that people literally need to spend tens of thousands on products they don't want just to be offered the opportunity to buy the bag they actually desire. The Birkin bag phenomenon is pyramid scheming at its most refined. The bags retail between $12,000 and $300,000, yet cost Hermes approximately $800 to $1,500 to produce even when accounting for genuine leather and hand stitching, representing markups of 1,000 to 20,000%, that exist purely because they've convinced people that owning one is the ultimate status symbol. What makes Hermes particularly pyramid-like is their purchase history requirement, where boutiques track your spending and you need to establish a relationship by buying scarves, jewelry, shoes, and other products you might not want, demonstrating loyalty and financial commitment before they'll offer you a Birkin, which is literally the definition of paying to move up levels in a hierarchical system. The waitlist mythology surrounding Birkins is partially manufactured, with stores having inventory in the back, but deliberately restricting access to create artificial scarcity. and maintain the perception that these bags are rare and special, when in reality, Hermes produces tens of thousands annually. The brand has successfully created a secondary market where Birkins resell for above retail, which they point to as evidence of investment value. But this only works as long as new buyers keep entering the system believing the same story, which is exactly how pyramid schemes sustain themselves until they inevitably collapse. Hermes sales associates have been caught coaching customers on exactly how much to spend to qualify for a Birkin offer, making explicit the pay-to-play structure that defines pyramid operations. Yet this is somehow considered normal in luxury retail, rather than the obvious manipulation it represents. The quality argument falls apart when you realize that brands like Delvaux, Moynat, and other actual heritage leather goods makers produce comparable or superior quality bags at half the price without the artificial scarcity games, proving that Birkin prices are about manufactured desire rather than actual value. Chanel has cynically raised prices year after year, at rates far exceeding inflation, training their customers to buy now because it'll be more expensive later, which is scarcity manipulation combined with price anchoring that creates panic buying behavior identical to pyramid scheme urgency tactics. The brand's iconic flat bag has increased from $1,900 in 2008 to over $10,000 in 2024, representing a price increase of over 400% in 16 years, while inflation over the same period was only 40%, making it clear these increases have nothing to do with costs and everything to do with positioning and profit maximization. Chanel produces their bags in France, Italy, and Spain, with production costs estimated between $200 and $400 including materials and labor, meaning current retail prices represent markups of 2,500 to 5,000% that exist solely because Karl Lagerfeld and now Virginie Viard convinced you that a quilted leather bag with a chain strap is worth a month's rent. The brand discontinued online sales and made their products exclusively available in boutiques, artificially restricting access and forcing customers to visit stores where sales associates can upsell additional products and create the theatrical shopping experience that justifies premium pricing through pure atmosphere rather than product quality. What's particularly insidious is how Chanel has created this narrative about price increases being necessary to maintain exclusivity, literally telling customers that they're raising prices to keep poor people out, which is both morally repugnant and a clear admission that pricing has nothing to do with value and everything to do with social gatekeeping. The company has been sued multiple times for antitrust violations related to price fixing and prohibiting retailers from discounting, showing that maintaining their pyramid structure requires preventing any market forces that might reveal true value, which is exactly what pyramid schemes do when they prohibit participants from undercutting recommended prices. Chanel's marketing spend is astronomical, with the brand paying millions to celebrities like Kristen Stewart, Lily Rose Depp, and Jenny Kim to be brand ambassadors, meaning significant portions of what you pay go toward funding celebrity lifestyles rather than improving products, which raises the question of who's really benefiting from your purchase. Dior has built their empire on feminine fantasy and celebrity worship, spending more on endorsement deals with celebrities like Charlize Theron, Natalie Portman, and Jennifer Lawrence than on improving their actual products, revealing that they're selling association rather than quality. The brand's iconic Lady Dior bag, popularized by Princess Diana, costs approximately $100 to $200 to manufacture but retails for over $5,000, with the price primarily reflecting the advertising budget required to maintain the aspirational image rather than any superior craftsmanship or materials. Dior's ready-to-wear fashion shows are spectacular theatrical productions costing millions of dollars, with those costs ultimately passed on to consumers who are paying not just for clothes, but for the privilege of associating themselves with the fantasy world Dior creates on runways. The brand has been caught multiple times using manufacturers in China and Romania for products sold as made in Italy, revealing that even the heritage craftsmanship story is partially fiction. Yet this doesn't impact sales because customers aren't buying Italian manufacturing, they're buying the Dior name and what it signals to others. What's particularly pyramid-like about Dior is their strategy of creating entry-level products like lipsticks, fragrances, and small accessories priced between $50 and $300 that serve as gateway purchases, getting consumers invested in the brand before moving them up to bags, shoes, and ready-to-wear that cost thousands, which is classic hierarchical marketing where you start at the bottom and are encouraged to climb. The brand's collaboration with influencers and their gifting strategies, where they provide free products to social media personalities in exchange for posts, represents unpaid advertising that you're funding through premium prices, meaning you're literally paying for other people to receive free products that convince more people to buy. Dior's parent company, LVMH, is one of the world's most profitable corporations, with profit margins exceeding 30%, proving that luxury pricing is about maximizing shareholder returns rather than fairly compensating for quality or craftsmanship. Prada has successfully marketed intellectual minimalism and understated luxury while charging exorbitant prices for nylon bags that cost them virtually nothing to produce, representing perhaps the most brazen markup in the entire luxury industry. The brand's iconic nylon bags, which helped define their aesthetic in the 1990s and have been reissued repeatedly, cost approximately $20 to $40 to manufacture, including the tessuto nylon material and leather trim, yet retail for between $700 and $2,000, marking up one of the cheapest materials in fashion to luxury prices purely through branding. Prada has cultivated this image of intellectual superiority and artistic sensibility, positioning their customers as more thoughtful and less ostentatious than other luxury consumers, which is brilliant marketing that makes you feel superior for being manipulated in a slightly different way than Gucci customers. The brand's pricing strategy reveals the pyramid structure clearly. Their nylon bags serve as entry-level products that are still expensive but more accessible, while their leather goods and ready-to-wear occupy higher price tiers, creating a literal pyramid of products that encourage consumers to keep climbing and spending more. What's particularly manipulative is how Prada has reframed durability as luxury, marketing nylon bags as practical and long-lasting investment pieces, when in reality nylon is cheap precisely because it's durable and mass-produced, meaning they've convinced you to pay luxury prices for budget materials by changing the narrative around them. The brand has been criticized for cultural insensitivity multiple times, including a keychain design that resembled blackface imagery, showing that for all their positioning as intellectual and thoughtful, they're ultimately just another corporation making decisions based on profit rather than values. Prada's marketing emphasizes art gallery collaborations, museum exhibitions, and architectural statement stores designed by Rem Koolhaas, with all these cultural positioning costs built into product prices, meaning you're paying for the brand's prestige maintenance rather than for better products, which is classic pyramid scheme structure, where new member fees fund the lifestyle and image of those at the top. Saint Laurent has undergone radical repositioning from elegant French fashion house to rock and roll party brand targeting younger consumers willing to pay luxury prices for aesthetic rebellion that's been carefully packaged and commercialized by a corporate conglomerate. Under Hetty's creative direction, the brand leaned heavily into skinny silhouettes, leather jackets, and rock and roll imagery that appealed to celebrities and musicians, creating aspirational marketing that sold lifestyle and attitude rather than clothing quality or innovation. The brand's leather jackets retail for $4,000 to $8,000, despite production costs of approximately $300 to $600, representing markups of over 1,000% that exist because they've successfully associated their products with celebrity cool kids like Harry Styles, Zoe Kravitz, and various rock musicians. What makes Saint Laurent particularly pyramid-like is how they've created distinct aesthetic tribes within their customer base, with different collections appealing to different aspirational identities, but all requiring continuous purchasing to maintain the image because fashion changes and last season's rebellion becomes this season's outdated look. The brand's logo-heavy products, particularly their monogram bags and belts, serve the same function as other luxury logos by turning customers into advertisements. But Saint Laurent has successfully positioned this as edgy and rebellious rather than conformist, which is manipulative brilliance that makes you feel like an individual while doing exactly what the corporation wants. Saint Laurent is owned by Kering, the same conglomerate that owns Gucci, Balenciaga, and Bottega Veneta, meaning your rebellion and individuality are being carefully managed by a multi-billion-dollar corporation that views you as a revenue stream to be optimized, which should shatter any illusion that buying their products represents authentic self-expression. The brand's marketing increasingly relies on provocative imagery and controversy to generate attention and social media engagement, with those attention-grabbing campaigns funded by the premium prices you're paying, meaning you're financing your own manipulation into believing overpriced leather jackets represent authentic rebellion against mainstream culture when you're actually the mainstream culture. The entire luxury industry operates on the greater fool theory, which states that you're not buying luxury goods for their inherent value, but rather betting that there's someone below you in the pyramid who'll want them even more, and validate your purchase through their own desire and aspiration. This is pyramid scheme mentality distilled to its essence. Your purchase only makes sense if more people join below you, believing the same story about status and exclusivity that convinced you, creating a never-ending chain of people validating each other's increasingly expensive and objectively irrational purchasing decisions. The secondary market for luxury goods, particularly for brands like Hermes, Chanel, and Rolex, only functions as long as new buyers keep entering the market willing to pay retail or above. And the moment that stops happening, the whole system collapses like a pyramid scheme when recruitment slows. Social media has supercharged this dynamic by creating visible hierarchies of consumption where people document their purchases, unboxings, and collections, recruiting others into the system by making luxury ownership seem normal, achievable, and necessary for social validation. The rise of luxury resale platforms like The RealReal, Fashionphile, and Vestiaire Collective is marketed as sustainable and smart, but it actually serves to maintain the pyramid by providing exit liquidity for people who need to sell to fund new purchases, ensuring that goods keep circulating and the perception of value remains stable. What's particularly insidious is how luxury brands have convinced consumers that their products hold value or even appreciate, using outlier examples like rare Birkins or limited edition pieces to justify the broader claim, when the reality is that most luxury goods lose 60 to 80% of their value the moment you leave the store, which is worse depreciation than driving a new car off the lot. The whole system requires continuous recruitment of new believers who accept the premise that price equals value and that ownership of these products confers status, and the moment people collectively recognize that they're paying 1,000% markups for products that don't deliver proportional quality or happiness, the entire house of cards collapses. Every luxury purchase you make is a vote to maintain this system, a validation of their pricing and practices, and an advertisement to everyone around you that joining this pyramid is desirable, which makes you complicit in perpetuating the exact system that's exploiting your psychology and wallet. The psychological manipulation luxury brands employ is sophisticated and ruthlessly effective, targeting every cognitive bias and insecurity humans possess to create purchasing behavior that defies rational economic decision-making. Luxury brands use artificial scarcity to trigger fear of missing out, ensuring that people make emotional rather than logical purchasing decisions, rushing to buy before prices increase or products sell out, which prevents the careful consideration that would reveal the purchases make no financial sense. They leverage social proof by ensuring their products are visible on celebrities, influencers, and aspirational figures, knowing that humans are tribal animals who unconsciously mimic the behaviors of those they admire or wish to become, making you want what you see others having regardless of whether you actually need or even like it. The brands create in-group and out-group dynamics where ownership signals membership in an exclusive club, tapping into deep human needs for belonging and tribal identity, while simultaneously creating anxiety about being left out or being perceived as lower status if you don't participate. Luxury marketing rarely discusses actual product features or benefits, because doing so would invite comparison and rational evaluation. Instead, they focus on feelings, aspirations, and identities, keeping the conversation in the emotional realm where manipulating behavior is easier. They use anchoring bias masterfully by establishing high reference prices and then making you feel like you're getting a deal when something is merely expensive rather than obscenely expensive, or by showing you a $50,000 bag before offering a $5,000 one that suddenly seems reasonable by comparison. The brands create sunk cost traps where your first purchase psychologically commits you to future purchases because changing your mind would mean admitting you wasted money. So instead, you rationalize by buying more to prove to yourself that your initial decision was correct. What makes this particularly effective is that luxury brands have successfully positioned criticism of their industry as jealousy or bitterness from people who can't afford their products, creating a defensive shield where customers dismiss valid critiques to protect their self-image and past purchasing decisions. The entire system is designed to keep you on a hedonic treadmill where satisfaction is always temporary and the next purchase is always necessary, with last season's must-have becoming this season's outdated piece, ensuring you never feel complete and always need more to maintain your status and self-worth. So where does this leave us after revealing how luxury brands operate like pyramid schemes, manufacturing desire through artificial scarcity, marking up products by thousands of %, and manipulating psychology to create endless consumption cycles that benefit shareholders while leaving customers on financial and emotional treadmills? The uncomfortable truth is that luxury purchases provide temporary validation and fleeting satisfaction that fades quickly, requiring the next purchase to recreate the feeling, which is why people who can afford anything often own everything but seem no happier than those who own nothing. The quality argument collapses under scrutiny when you realize that truly well-made products from smaller manufacturers or even mid-tier brands often exceed luxury quality at fractions of the price, proving that what you're paying for isn't craftsmanship, but branding and social signaling. The investment justification is marketing fiction for 99% of luxury goods, with only rare outlier pieces actually appreciating while everything else depreciates dramatically, meaning you're destroying wealth rather than building it with most luxury purchases. What's being sold isn't really products at all, but rather the promise that owning them will make you feel different, better, more successful, more attractive, more worthy, which is a promise that can never be fulfilled because external purchases cannot resolve internal insecurities or create genuine self-worth. The brands at the top of this pyramid have billion-dollar valuations and profit margins that would make any industry jealous, built entirely on convincing people to pay astronomical markups for products that cost pennies to make, which should be recognized as the exploitative system it is, rather than celebrated as aspiration. The solution isn't necessarily rejecting all luxury or beautiful things, but rather making conscious decisions based on actual value and personal enjoyment, rather than social signaling and status anxiety, buying what you genuinely love rather than what you think others will be impressed by. Breaking free from the luxury pyramid scheme means recognizing that your worth isn't determined by what you own, that status symbols only have power if you grant them power, and that true confidence comes from achievements and character rather than from logo-covered accessories that broadcast insecurity disguised as success. If this video changed how you see luxury brands and the consumption culture they've created, hit that like button because this kind of content challenges the narratives these billion-dollar corporations want you to believe. Drop a comment sharing your experiences with luxury purchases, whether you felt manipulated by these tactics, or if you think this analysis is too harsh and luxury goods provide value I haven't acknowledged, because I want to hear different perspectives. Share this video with anyone you know who's saving up for a designer purchase or who's already deep in the luxury consumption cycle, not to shame them, but to give them information that might help them make more conscious decisions about where their money goes. The pyramid only functions if people keep joining at the bottom, and every person who steps back and questions the system weakens its foundation. So by spreading awareness, you're literally helping dismantle the manipulation that keeps this whole scheme running.